this happened in 2004. I was heading to New Zealand from my home city in Sydney, Australia. And we flew over from Sydney to Auckland. We arrived at the airport. I was with my family. And I was actually there to give a talk at the National Immunisation Conference there. And as we approached the immigration official, the official said the usual, right, so what's the purpose of your stay? And I said, well, I'm here for a conference. And he said, what's the conference about? And I said, it's immunisation. And he said, are you for or against? And I said, I'm for. Well, you can come into the country then. So that's the sort of the story that illustrates the passion and support that people can have for immunisation, and that, you know, this sense that we want to protect our borders. And that's a story that's been played out in more serious ways in governments deciding not to let speakers into Australia because they're going to run anti-vaccination seminars, etc. So vaccination is deeply valued in society. However, if we go back many years to 1941, my grandmother turns to natural health, which is a belief system that ascribes to natural methods of disease prevention, healthy food, fresh air, a healthy lifestyle, and other things like the idea that fluoride in the drinking water is not natural, so we've got to try and keep it out of the water, or that vaccination is not natural, so we shouldn't vaccinate. And she, in fact, my grandmother, raised her 4 children to be against vaccination. And my mother, imagine my mother, it's the mid-60s. She has 3 boys. I'm yet to be born. And my brother hits his head in a park and he's bleeding profusely, and she takes him to the doctor, and the doctor says he's going to need a tetanus vaccine, and Mum says, well, they're not immunised at all. None of my brothers were immunised. And the doctor was aghast and said, you have to vaccinate. And Mum went home and thought about it, and she'd already been prevaricating, and she ended up deciding to vaccinate my brother and the other 2 boys the next day. Now the task was to inform her mother that she'd decided to vaccinate. So she rang my grandmother and told her, and my grandmother said to my mother, this is the worst day of my life. Such was her opposition, deep felt opposition to vaccination. My grandmother was a smart, industrious woman. She just had these very strong beliefs about vaccination. So I come to the third story, where someone I know was in the car and they're stopped at traffic lights and they're checking their Facebook feed, and they see these people making claims against vaccination online. And she's so horrified that she wants to tell me what's happening. So she's taking a screenshot, and then she's starting to drive, and she's trying to screenshot and send this conversation to me, and she nearly has a car accident. And I think that story says that we can hold values about vaccination deeply. We can be terribly worried when people are against vaccination, but let's not let our actions about that cause unintended harms by being overly strident, shouting science louder, by shouting down people with genuine questions, or by creating policies that are so harsh that we end up alienating and marginalising a significant proportion of our society. So I guess they're my 2 stories, and that's the moral to the story.